Hey everybody, welcome back to Garden Time with Belle. Today I am starting off in my home office in front of these beautiful pictures you can see behind me of some of the dahlias that I have grown in my garden. I didn't know anything about dahlias until about 5 years ago when I happened upon this wonderful sort of documentary series on the Magnolia Network, all about floret farms. And I don't know if you've seen that. I'll try to put a link in the description below about this amazing grower. Her name is Erin. She lives in Washington State, and she is doing amazing, beautiful, hard work in the floral industry in her gardens in Washington. I actually have one of her books, Year in Flowers from Floret Farm. It is absolutely chocked full of beautiful photographs, but lots of really good information about how to grow all kinds of flowers. But it was really the dahlias that I fell in love with from that particular series. And thought, well, I don't know anything about this. I'm going to do a little research, follow her show, go online, go onto they have an American Dahlia Society, just learn as much as I could from researching a little bit about how you grow these magnificent flowers. What I love about dahlias is their variety and just their massive beauty. I mean, oh my goodness, right? It's not hard to see how absolutely lovely they are. So I really like that about them, of course, but so much variety. Oh goodness, I have no clue like how many varieties of dahlias there are in the US or in the world for that matter, but there is something for everyone. They have all different kinds of dahlias. So I will try to put a link in the description below of Floret Farms, even though they don't sell dahlias anymore. Also Swan Island, that's where I happen to get a lot of my tubers to grow here in my garden. And so I'll put that link in the description below as well. But there are lots of dahlia growers out there. You can pick up dahlias in big box stores. They sell them. I would caution you, if you really want to make sure you're getting healthy dahlias, that might not be the route you want to go. I've seen a lot of things in my online dahlia groups that suggest that some of the big box stores import their dahlias from overseas, and the way that they're grown and handled, they can actually introduce gall, G-A-L-L, which is something that's really awful for your flowers and awful for the soil in your garden. It can create problems for all kinds of things. So anyhow, just be mindful if you want to get into the dahlia game, where you purchase your dahlia tubers from. Dahlias are definitely a labor of love for this Zone 6B gardener. Where I live, I can't leave the dahlias in the ground year round because we get far too cold here in our winters and it would kill the tubers that are under the soil. So I have to store mine very carefully inside the house all winter long and then replant them each spring. But I mean, just check out that beauty. To me, it's worth it. Maybe someday it won't be, but I think it's worth it for such a magnificent beauty. I recently shared a video with you all on how I'm trying to pre-sprout my dahlias. And so I'm going to make sure I put a link to that previous YouTube video in the description below so you can take a look at that process, because after I leave my office this morning and we're going to head down to the greenhouse, and that is where I had pre-sprouted several tubers. And oh my gosh, really, they should have been in the ground 3 or 4 days ago at least, because they are getting big and I need to do that today. So I want to take you along on that garden adventure. What else was I going to tell you about with dahlias? Oh, why did I pre-sprout them? Well, I chose to pre-sprout them, never having done that before. This is my first time, another garden experiment for Belinda, but I pre-sprouted them because last year I planted my tubers out in mid to late May, and I did not get flowers from these gorgeous plants until this first or second week of September. And then by mid-October, it gets cold here, and so yeah, 4 weeks of flowers was not enough, of a time for me to really enjoy these beauties. So pre-sprouting is something that you can do to get ahead of the curve, and that's what I'm hoping. But again, it's all an experiment. I'm going to try it this year, and I will be, of course, taking you along on the progress and seeing how long does it really take for my dahlias, pre-sprouted dahlias, to bloom this season. So anyhow, I think that's pretty much what you need to know in terms of background, why I love these gorgeous flowers. And so let's head down to the greenhouse and check out how my pre-sprouting's done, and then find some space in my raised bed gardens to plant these lovely favorite flowers of mine. So let's. It is a gorgeous early morning here in mid-May. A little bit chilly, but that's all right. I'd much rather work in the chilly weather than when it's going to be hot and humid. And so here we are in the greenhouse. Oh, isn't everything looking great? Almost everything. We'll talk about some of my challenges with growing so many things from seed, but overall had a pretty good result. So why are we here? Let's stay focused. And that is on the dahlias. So, oh my goodness, you'll see what I mean when I show you the results of the pre-sprouting. There's one tray, and here's the other tray. All right, let's get this. Ooh, listen, I'm running out of room in this greenhouse. That means everything's got to get out in the garden. All right, so let me show you how things have been turning out. So as you know from the other video, and if you haven't seen my other video, I encourage you to go do that. But I laid these tubers in some soil, leaving just the crown exposed, covered the body and the neck, which is really important so they don't dry out or rot. And look, they sprouted some. Oh my gosh, look how tall that one is. This one, huge. This one, huge, and over here. But there are plenty of other ones I'm going to plant today, because what I wanted to do is just to make sure they were viable. So if they didn't sprout, I've already removed them. Here's one that you can barely tell, but it has sprouted. So let's see if I can get in. Do you see those little purple? Those are eyes, which are going to become stems, which are going to become stems that are going to come up and out of the ground. And look at this tuber. So here's one of the sprouts, and here's one on the back side. That big boy right there. Okay, so next step, I'm going to take these out to the garden, and I'm going to plant them, excuse me, at a depth of about 4 inches. I've never pre-sprouted before, and everything I've been reading, oh, look at all those roots. Wow. Wow. Whew. Anyhow, everything I've read says that the tuber, this part right here, the tuber needs to go down in the soil, just like if I planted it without pre-sprouting, about 4 inches. Even if it has this stem that could be buried under the soil, and that's okay. So that's what I'm going to try. Oh, wish me luck, and come along and see where I decide to put them in my raised bed garden. So as you can see, I removed them from the trays where I had pre-sprouted them. So this is just potting soil. And I ended up with 14 viable tubers that showed me some pre-sprouts. And I think altogether when I started, I think I might have put about, I don't know, 24 in. So I didn't toss 4. Actually, some pre-sprouted, and I already went ahead and popped them in another raised bed. So I think out of the 20 some that I tried to pre-sprout, I think about, let's see, 14 plus another 5. So about 20 were viable. So that's great. So you can see really big, and you can see these little bitty ones, but it doesn't matter the size. If you see some growth, it's worth planting. So, okay, next step, let's get out to the raised beds and get these in the ground.
Okay, I want to show you where in my raised bed garden I'm gonna plant my dahlia tubers that I pre-sprouted. So you can see this little bed here, it's got 4 bamboo canes. It's really a good idea when you're planting your tubers to go ahead and plant the support right along with it instead of putting them in the ground and then trying to shove those down, because what you'll end up with is a possibility of piercing those tubers, and you don't want to do that. So there's that area. And then let's go under my little arch that, I don't know if I've shown you this before, but this cattle panel arch, I on this side have sugar snap peas that grow up, and then soon I'm going to plant my climbing pole beans, and they'll go up when the sugar snaps are done. Those come out, and then cucumbers, and oh yeah, it'll be cute. It'll be fun. All right, so down here we go under the arch again. You can see in this bed I've got those 6 stakes for the dahlia tubers. Now, yeah, you're going to see some spring crops in this bed, and I'm going to have to sacrifice a little bit of those to plant the tubers, but that's okay, because actually this over here that looks so lush, this is arugula, and I had a salad last night using a lot of the arugula. So yeah, so you'll see me probably, like, if I put a tuber down under this part of the soil, I will harvest this arugula, anything that's near it, and have that for dinner with a salad tonight. So yeah, that's where they're gonna go, and better get my tubers ready and get them in the ground. So you really don't need many tools for this job. I'm gonna use my trowel to dig the holes, my biotone starter fertilizer, and of course my tray of tubers. So that's really it. So I just checked the video, and when I was planting up this bed, something happened, and I apologize if I didn't get all the details shared with you. But anyhow, this one is done as well. I chose to put the smaller tubers in this bed and the really big ones in that other bed, my first bed that I started, just as an experiment. I want to see if it's really true that regardless of the size of the tuber, it has no correlation with how big the plant grows. So we'll see. The other thing I didn't mention was that there's a lot of controversy on how you should fertilize your dahlias. And you saw me put the biotone starter fertilizer in each of the planting holes. And so that's going to be enough for now. But what I have settled on in most of my research in terms of fertilizing dahlias is that they want low nitrogen, high phosphorus, a little bit lower potassium. So when you're looking at fertilizers for your garden, the NPK rating is important to learn more about. I might see if I can find a really good article, maybe from MU Extension, to put in my comments, or excuse me, in the description for you all, to learn a little bit more about NPK. Every fertilizer that you buy should have 3 numbers representing nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. So anyhow, low nitrogen supposedly for these beauties, and higher phosphorus for bloom sets. So we'll see. I will definitely come back in a couple weeks and start to fertilize these. But for now, they're getting the starter fertilizer. And then, as I said, they'll start to get a regular high phosphorus fertilizer. Yeah, in a few weeks. So I'll keep you posted on how my dahlia experiment with pre-sprouting my tubers turns out this season. I appreciate you all hanging out with me today for another adventure in my garden. Again, I'm all about trying new stuff. Just go for it and see what happens. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider liking and subscribing so that you'll know when I have new videos to share. This time of year, it's not too hard to post lots of videos because this is a super busy time in the garden here in my Zone 6B, Mid-Missouri property, and I have lots to share. So thank you so much, and as always, happy gardening.